Oh, lastly, just make sure you guys introduce yourselves.
I have a note card on that.
Oh,
Okay, right? Okay. Hello, I'm Katie, and this is my transition speech. So I was born in Manassas, Virginia, and my mom was a forensic scientist for the FBI, and my dad was a civil engineer. But when I was 5 years old, they picked us all up, and we moved to Bar Harbor, Maine, and opened up a bed and breakfast called the Saltaire Inn. And this is kind of what inspired my love for baking and being in the kitchen, because I grew up baking cookies and muffins every afternoon. And as a kid, I kind of had a different dream every other week. So for a while, I was going to be the first female president. I was going to be a lawyer and go to Harvard. I was going to be a chef in a crazy restaurant in New York City. I was going to be an author. I thought about being a math teacher and playing my clarinet in the background of Disney movies. And I wanted to be an interior designer. And then also the stereotypical actress, princess, singer. But when I think about my dreams as a kid, the two that stand out the most to me are an archaeologist and a doctor. So when I was in second grade, I think, I was obsessed with archaeology. I had a subscription to an Archaeology for Kids magazine called Dig. And what are the odds that I'm out raking leaves with my Girl Scout troop when I meet a woman who's on the board for the Abbey Museum? And after talking with her for a couple minutes, she finds out, oh, this kid is weirdly obsessed with archaeology. And she actually invited me on a tour of the Abbey Museum, and I got to see the back room and the back room, which was super special. And I got invited on a dig. And while I was out there, this dig was not only the climax of my archaeology dream, but it was also the downfall. Because while I was out there, we had these giant sifters on ropes, and you just stand there and go like this for hours. And but while I was out there, I ended up finding a beaver tooth that had been carved into a tool by Native Americans. And if you go to the Abbey Museum and you go to the back room, there's a drawer full of hundreds of beaver teeth, one of which being the one that I found. So that was definitely the climax of this dream. But on the other hand, this dig was also the downfall, because it was a long, boring, exhausting, cold day where I discovered that maybe I don't want to sit in a pile of dirt with a toothbrush for hours every day. Was not my cup of tea. And then around 7th and 8th grade, I was obsessed with the show Grey's Anatomy. And this led me to decide I'm going to be a surgeon. I'm going to be a successful surgeon, and I'm going to marry a surgeon, and I'm going to have kids, and they're going to grow up and be surgeons, and that was going to be my whole life. I was also in love with Jackson Avery, so I thought I would throw a picture of him in there. And Meredith Grey was actually one of my big inspirations growing up. In the earlier seasons, in the late seasons, she gets kind of moody and annoying. But in the beginning, when she was a woman pursuing her dream of being a surgeon, I was like, man, I want to be just like her. But then reality kind of hits, and you realize that being a real-life doctor is nothing like Grey's Anatomy. So that's kind of where that dream ended up going down. But throughout all of this, I've always had a love for math. And this love for math comes from my dad. I still remember sitting at the kitchen table late into the night working on sunshine math problems that were due the next day. And he's always been there teaching me about the Pythagorean theorem. And he's the one that taught me that in word problems, of means multiply and stuff like this. And so not only did he teach me my love of math, he also turned me into the biggest nerd ever in middle school. During lunch, twice a week, I would sit in the library and check on my stocks because I was in the stock market club. I was a member of the solar car team. Irene Choi and I went to States with our solar car which sadly malfunctioned, and it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life when you're sitting at the starting line, surrounded by people that have really fast cars that they built, and yours just like literally doesn't even turn on. And one of my most proud middle school moments was going to the math competition with my friends on the math team, and placing first was a big deal. Still have my trophy. And that love for math is still with me today. My favorite class ever is AP Calculus. I actually kind of like looked forward to my AP exam. So when I was trying to think of what I wanted to be in the future, I knew it had to be something that included math, which is where I discovered engineering, in particular civil engineering, because I'm fascinated with structures and buildings and how things work and the functions and equations that go into deciding like how tall a staircase can be and stuff like that. And but on the other hand, I was also really interested in the design portion that goes into buildings and bridges. So I was kind of going back and forth with engineering, architecture, and that is when I discovered architectural engineering. So that, for right now, I still kind of change what I want to major in and what I want my career to be like once a week, like I did when I was in second grade. But as of right now, it's architectural engineering. And so the next big thing for me was picking out a college. And I've always been one to dream about college. Ever since 8th grade, I was thinking about what school I was going to go to. And so the first main thing for me is I wanted there to be a focus on sports and school pride. And so that's where University of Tennessee and Syracuse and Penn State come from, because those are all big schools with a big love for football. And the first school I ever visited was McGill University in Montreal, and that is still my dream school. If I could go there tomorrow, I would. But getting in and applying to McGill is going to be really hard, so I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to try, but we'll see how that goes. And UMaine isn't really on the list, but it's an hour away, so I figured why not apply, because it's right there. And then there's the United States Naval Academy. Recently, I was totally dead set on going to the Naval Academy. I was going to go for engineering, and then I was going to get out of the Naval Academy and be an engineer in the Navy. But the applying process and the regimen of a military school kind of scared me away from that option. But this leads me to my current top two schools, which are Wentworth Institute of Technology and Northeastern. Both of these schools are in Boston, and they have really amazing engineering programs, which is what originally attracted me to them. So Wentworth is kind of my safety school. It's a lot like Northeastern, but it's smaller and it's less expensive. And something that's really attracting me to this school right now is they're actually building a new engineering building, which will be done in 2019, just in time for me to come and use all the brand new labs and equipment that they're going to have, which is super exciting. And on the other hand, Northeastern is more of a reach for me, but this is currently my number one school. I definitely love this school. I love the area. I love Boston. And I could see myself going there in 2 years and being a huge Red Sox fan, going to Fenway all the time. But in the end, my final decision will probably come down to what's best for me financially between the two schools, because obviously Northeastern is quite a bit more expensive than what Wentworth is. And so 10 years from now, I probably see myself working as an engineer somewhere in Boston, and then living in a suburb outside of Boston with my husband and my 3 kids in a big house in like a little cul-de-sac somewhere. And, oh, yeah, that's 10 years from now. And those are my sources.
Questions for Katie?
What attracts you to try to live in a suburb? I'm curious, because I lived in a suburb. It's not all that it's like stacked up to be.
No, I don't know. It's just the idea of like living on a road and just having neighbors. Because I live on a road right now where none of the neighbors like talk to each other. It's all very like, you know. And so I just want to live somewhere where there's like barbecues on the weekends and stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's what I'm looking for. Any other questions? Yes.
What's the difference between architecture and architectural engineering?
Architectural engineering is more just you're an architect, but you have a background in engineering, so you can work closer with the engineers and you kind of know more about what you're talking about. So you know more about, you talk about the design, but you also know what's going on behind the scenes.
And so that both Wentworth and Northeastern have that?
Mm-hmm.
And when you mean behind the scenes, what do you mean?
Like the, I'm trying to think of the word, like the, I don't know, like fundamentals. That's not the word, but like the inside of the walls, you know, like the. Okay. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like the I can't think of the word. I know it starts with an F though.
Framework?
Yeah, stuff like that. You know, you know about like the architect is more like designing what's on like the outside, like what you see of the house. The engineer is more of like what's the inside of the house, so like what's keeping it standing.
Structure.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
What would that be? The mechanics of the building.
Yeah,
the
stuff
materials
like that.
used. I was just wondering too, like, what's the difference in the approach to the study of it?
Architecture and engineering are very similar. At most of the schools I was looking at, a lot of the classes kind of lined up, and then one of my dad's best friends is an architect, but he went to school for engineering, and then just kind of switched at the very end. And I was talking to him, and he was like, "If you want to be an engineer, I say go for engineering," because he's lived his whole life as an architect, wishing he was an engineer.
Right.
So that's why I was like, "Oh, what a combination!"
What kind of buildings would you want to design?
Like skyscrapers, bridges and stuff.
Wow.
Big stuff.
Do you have a favorite bridge or skyscraper?
No, but when we were driving to Boston, I was a huge fan of that bridge that you cross right before you get into the city.
The Zachem?
Maybe, I don't know.
The one that looks like the Bucksport Bridge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Other questions for Katie? Come on, you guys have it to one question. Rachel,
Oh.
you talk to Katie constantly.
Yeah, I know. I've heard the speech a lot. Wait, so you said that in 10 years you want to be living with your husband and 3 kids?
Yep.
You plan to have 3 kids by the time you're 27?
I mean, no, I was kind of exaggerating, but
Okay.
like, you know, I want to have a really nice family life.
Interesting.
You know, that the whole family part of my future is really important to me.
Yeah, no more questions?
Lindsay.
Oh, sorry.
Is there, like, I know you take a lot of math classes and stuff. Is there any way those AP credits can transfer to either of those schools to help you out financially if you wanted to go to Northeastern over Wentworth?
Yes. Yeah, especially the AP Calc. If I get like a 5 on that test, that would
Oh,
really
yeah.
help me out because then I don't have to take Calc 1. And I don't want to do that.
Awesome. Nice job.